Today we're actually filming live, so we're actually going over some just random Odium examples of the Odium gene that Nerd has. It's one of our proprietary. No, it's one of our cute little genes that really confuses me. But if you want to see our next live streaming, you would actually want to go to twitch.tv and join our audience. And of course, the people that have actually been donating to us and actually keeping us motivated and alive, we love you because you're awesome. And we're really happy that you guys have so much interest in us and you're very supportive. I'm going to attempt to tell you about Nerd's Odium gene, which is specific to Nerd, and it's a gene that took me a while to even realize that it was here and what it was doing. But I can tell you a couple things. It was something from a wild-caught female that I had that had an odd two-tone side color. So we're going to show you a baseline Odium. Just because it has a two-tone side does not mean any snake with a two-tone side is an Odium. But this, I don't know if you can see it, but we're going to show you.
Let's get close. What do you got?
Hello. Okay, you can see.
Yeah?
If I go, oh my God, I have to get this just right.
It's okay. You can see yourself in the camera now, right?
Yeah, but.
I can zoom in a little bit. Hold on.
So you can see right below those alien eyes, you see a little bit darker. Mm-hmm. So it's right about mid body. Oh my God, this is all backwards. This is really hard to.
Oh, that's backwards?
Oh, well, I'm looking. It's like I'm looking in the mirror and everything's backwards. So right below this alien eye, right down here, we get this darker area right below this black line right there. Okay, so anyways, this is a base Odium. Now, that doesn't seem too exciting. And it isn't. I absolutely will not deny. In fact, some Odiums that I make, I surely don't think I can even tell. But it's a really interesting gene because just like a lot of other genes, there's some genes that we just barely can see a little bit, but ultimately what they do is more interesting. So what we're going to do next is we're going to look at a hidden genome granite. See, this one's a little bit clearer.
Okay.
So can we see that two-tone?
Yeah, well, I mean, get a little closer to it. How does this look?
See that?
Yep.
So now, guys, see this dark area and then this light area? So remember that, all right? So this is a hidden genome granite Odium. So now we can start seeing we have the side dissolve.
You can probably get closer. Probably won't. Yeah, you go. Just take it slow. It will adjust. There we go. Is that what you're trying to?
Yeah, that's one of the things. So the Odium down the side of the animal, it will often cause this pigment to start dissolving. Remember this though. This is key for everybody who's trying to understand what this stupid thing is doing. This would be Enchi, Mojave, Odium stuff.
A little bit higher, Kevin.
And I'm always going to say stuff, guys, because we've noticed with the Odium, we can breed an Odium combo to whatever, and the resulting babies, we produce variations that still seem to have the same genes, but it's how they react. So what I got to do now is I got to kind of speed along a little bit and show you a couple things that's going on. This little guy is a GHI Enchi.
A little higher, buddy. There you go.
Odium. And it's pretty right? Doesn't show a lot. So what happens in some cases, Odiums go through a change. So if I look at this with a little bit of size, this and this. So these two look okay, but you know, nothing too dramatic. But if we continue to go further with it, we can actually show you a couple things. Okay, so this is more Odium. So we started mixing Odium and Malum together, and then we have Enchi and Lesser, and this it doesn't even have GHI, but boy does it look like it does. So you can start seeing this really And I start adding leopard. And so now we start looking at, so we have GHI, we have Enchi, we have Lucifer, believe it or not, we have Odium, and we have Mojave. But the color of this animal is just wrong. There's just such odd colors going on. So this is basically what I was first doing some of these animals. So this is Hidden Gene Woma, Granite, Mojave, which gets this nice striping. Then we add Enchi and Odium. And we call these beast or double beast. So when I first started making these, I was like, hey, what is going on? It's kind of soul suckery in this complex. So if I take that animal and I look at that, so remember, this is essentially, we're looking at 4 genes here. So once again, Hidden Gene Woma, Granite, which is connected, and then we have Mojave, and then we have Enchi, and then we have Odium. So now we add Lucifer. We get this green. So we call this Odium green, which makes this really, it's a really interesting look to it. So the difference between these two is just one gene, which is the Lucifer gene. So take this, let me see, beast. So if I take beast and we start adding pinstripe. Now, what's really interesting is accounting for all this melanin that's coming out, because there's no GHI in that. But we get this real darkness to it. And I don't really know where it's coming from, because generally when we add pinstripe to things, we actually make things go lighter. Well, it reacts. But you can see all this exaggerated melanin. We take Mojave, Lucifer, Odium, and add like pastel. We start getting this kind of, where we start getting this like desert ghost kind of thing. We get this really interesting color towards the tail. But these are all just, they're key ingredients for what it further progresses to do. What's interesting about Odium, if you take Odium and you lay it on top of an epistatic relationship. So an epistatic relationship, when you take 2 base genes that are allelic, so when I put them together, they both look a certain way, but when you put them together, they do something really dramatic. So essentially, in layman's terms, that's like we're seeing epistasis. So they react. So that would be like Spectre and Yellow Belly. They both occur at the same locus site, and when you put them together, I make a superstripe. So there's so many different genes that we're working with that do that. So let's say if I take something like this. If I take Coral Glow, and then I throw on some Super Fader, some Odium, and Yellow Belly stuff, I can make snakes that look like that. And then with a little bit of age, they look like that. There was one that was even more white, but oh, here it is. And these are my 3 progressions. You see the white? So it makes these, so this dissolve. So let's say right now I focus on all these, I call them watermarks, but it causes the pigment to dissolve through on the saddles and the pattern, and it makes a really, really cool animal. And this is all key, having things like the Super Fader, which is also a nerd gene, and we have to describe in another video, but Super Fader stuff does really, really cool stuff. But you can see, we go along, those are pretty interesting little combos. So let's look at the progression. So we did a progression right there. So now, if we start doing Super Enchi, Pastel, Lucifer, Orange Dream, maybe Yellow Belly, Het Pied, Odium stuff, what's happening here, Donnie, is, remember this little side thing that we were talking about? This is going bye-bye. So I'm losing all my side pigment. So what's actually happening is this animal looked really pretty when it's little, But as it's growing, we're losing the pigment. So you start getting this dissolve. So it's almost like, I call them watermarks. Are we gonna stop? So look at that. See how the side, so remember that, when I showed you that midsection, the color change on the original Odium stuff? So now if I take that, let's take this little guy right here. So we have this little guy with, super enchy, pastel, orange dream, maybe yellow belly, het pied, Odium. But as this little animal grows, it starts getting this ridiculous dissolve. You can see right here where we have hidden gene woma in the mix, which causes a lot of speckling. But once again, you have the dissolve. Okay, so this one has coral glow, right? So you see the head. This one does not. So this one would be hidden gene woma, granite, Mojave, Enchi, Odium. Then we add Lucifer, pastel, and likely leopard. And this is actually a litter mate right here. But you see that dark head, which is very indicative of the hidden gene woma. They absolutely hate that camera. Then we can take something here and do a hidden gene woma, Mojave, Enchi. Then we add pinstripe and pastel to that one. Because if I don't put the pastel on that, that one's going to be dark. So this would be just, so this would be hidden gene woma, granite, Mojave. Whenever I say hidden gene woma, just expect the granite's tossed in there. But hidden gene woma, Mojave, Enchi, and then we add red stripe to it, which is kind of interesting. Some of these are not dramatic as far as pattern, but what they are doing with the coloring of things. So this would be Mojave, then Enchi, and leopard, and I would say Odium because it's doing something to the color. But sometimes the one thing that's really, really critical with Odium, you can't always just definitively say, oh, it's this. Or sometimes I've had animals that don't really look anything special, and then as I start raising them, just because they happen to just be in a rack, and then you come back to me, you're like, wow, is that animal changing? If you look at the first IMG boa, the Colombian IMG boa, which just looked kind of interesting when it was little, but what it grew into was a big change, and we're seeing this with Odium. So Odium's doing a lot of interesting things with the color, but then also wax out pattern. If we start adding anything to do with yellow belly and fader, even some of the pied stuff, we're starting, like the pied expression is pretty interesting. But it really can ramp up the colors. Now I want to tell you one thing. This video is just a quick glimpse at the Odium gene, where this is not being definitive because we have so many cool Odium animals. We're actually just moving racks around today, so we're really disorganized, and so I knew we needed to do something with the Odium thing because we're actually going to try to cover some of our Odium, our bald, our fader, EMG to kind of explain some of these things. But I love what the Odium does. And this is, once again, there's no hidden gene woma in this. So we're back into the complex of just pastel, Lucifer, pied, yellow belly, Odium, and orange dream. And of course we have always things like mixed, which is bald and fader and all that. But people need to understand, like, when you start having so many different genes, it really starts, like, the breeder, especially when you're making your first one, we're trying to almost guess at some of the different stuff, definitively. And what's interesting about the Odium gene is no two. I have ones I call beasts and double beasts, but genetically the ingredients are both the same, but they look different. One's striped, one's more banded, and they're Odium complex animals. but they literally have very different looks. And then when you start adding just base genes, this was so cool about Odium. You just start adding base genes, even the special gene. We started finding out the special gene tricks out, but a yellow belly, anything that causes any kind of fading is really cool. So there definitely has to be, you know, part 2 and 3 of these, you know, animals, because as I'm doing this, I'm thinking, wow, there's so many other ridiculous. If anything, we've left out a huge portion of our ridiculous Odium animals. So if you actually like this video, and I don't know why, but anyways, if you did like it, please make sure you like and subscribe and hit that bell and comment away. You can say whatever the hell you want to say, but we really do appreciate your comments. And of course, follow me, Evil Morph God, on Instagram, as well as New England Reptile on Instagram. Also, New England Reptile Distributors. Make sure you got that on YouTube. New England Reptile on Facebook. And of course, if you're not in our Twitch.tv audience, you should be. And don't forget, for everybody, have a really good day and hope you're doing well.
That was the most positive outro. I gotta turn my camera on, dude.
You didn't turn your camera on!